All right. Welcome to the Contrarian Hour. I'm
And
here.
the boys are
Tyson's
back.
here. Yeah, the boys are back. The boys are belting them out. So we'll jump right into it this time. About last weekend, I saw, and this was going in blind completely. I have seen the first one since then, but I went and took a look. I think it was during Memorial Day weekend and saw Furiosa. Okay. And it was an empty movie theater experience. There was absolutely no one there. I liked the movie.
Wow.
I
Wait,
thought it
was
was
this
good
opening
enough.
weekend?
This was opening weekend matinee.
Damn.
Matinee. So there's a little bit of a distinction there. I didn't see it at night, but yeah, it was me and two friends, and then a couple in the way back of the movie theater that I think was trying to get some alone time, and then just some me and my two goober friends walk in and we're just being obnoxious. So, but it was good enough, and it made me want to see the. I never saw the Mel Gibson ones, but it got me to go see Fury Road. And the difference between a movie made in 2015 and 20 whatever year it is, 2023, it's 2024, is stark. You could tell there's a lot more practical effects back then. There's a lot less focus on dialogue. There's less bloat, by the way. They're more comfortable making movies less than 2.5 hours. So even the difference just between those two was interesting to me. But the thing I wanted to focus on, and I wanted to get your input with, because I think it's a culmination of a lot over the years that's led us to this point is, and you could say it was because of a certain virus that may or may not have happened in 2023 that some people are still bitter about, aka me, and some people are resentful over politicians about, aka me. But what is going
CC
on?
Jacinda.
And Jacinta, she's kind of a recurring character on this show. Back when we first started, back in the day, it was we talk about Laura Lux and then occasionally Jacinta. Some weird choices.
Have you ever watched Friends? She's kind of like Gunther from Friends.
I don't know who that is. I know the main characters.
Or Newman from Seinfeld. That's who she is.
Okay, that clicked a little bit. So. I dated a girl that looked a lot like Phoebe and acted like her too, now that I think about it. She's the blonde one on Friends, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So not sure if that's a dub or not. But
it's not. I'm sorry.
Man, that's okay. I'm so used to them, they just bounce right off me. It's like I'm like the Teflon Don, except like the Teflon L bouncer. So there we go. So yeah, I saw the movie. It was completely empty in the theaters, and it definitely led me to have a deeper internal dialogue about what's going on at theaters. And before I go for it, I'm wondering if you've given any thought to this subject.
Yeah, I was gonna go and see it, in all honesty, but I just couldn't. It's hard for me to get worked up over a film like Furiosa. I'm sure it might be a good film in some aspects, but honestly, dude, I'm just personally done with the strong female character archetype. It's been done a million times. It's just fucking boring, and even if this one was done well, it doesn't tickle my pickle. So I'm not doing it.
So why don't you think people are going to theaters in general, though?
Streaming, but for this one specifically, I really do think it's the female character thing, because, dude, people want to talk about like the summer box office apocalypse. That's what they're calling it. Like, apparently no one this summer is just going to view films, but that's not true. Dude, Dune made nearly $800 million. Like, the money is there for people to come to cinemas if they have the sauce, but it seems like no one has the sauce these days. That's what I think.
It's a strange, at least in America, the time at which Dune came out is in an entertainment dry spell in this country, where there's a time period where no one's having fun in the summer, and it's not football season, aka college football and NFL, and that's what, March through, we'll just say April, May, late May. Around that time, there's not typical American entertainment, so people are more, what do I do now? Oh, I guess I'll go to the movies, and then they go and see Dune. I don't think that's the full reason why theaters are empty, but it's partially why, especially since these movies are really long now. I think that has a lot to do with it. But to me, I think it's the culmination of a lot of different things. First off, I think people are completely oversaturated by entertainment. You used to not be able to see a movie unless you went to the movie unless you went to the movie
Oh,
theater.
yeah, yeah.
So now you have every movie you ever wanted to see outside at your fingertips, all across multiple streaming platforms before you even get to YouTube, where you could take in these movies, and it cheapens the value of going to the theaters and seeing a movie. People like to say, oh, it's too expensive now to go to the movie theater. It's always been expensive to go to the movies. Maybe 20 or 30 years ago, it was $5, $7 for a ticket, but it's been $10 to $13 for a movie ticket for quite a long time. And if it wasn't, it was around 9 or 8, 10 or 15 years ago. Not really. I think it was always $10 plus. But then they say, oh, the drinks and the food are so expensive. That's something they've been talking about my entire life. Mind you, that's the only way movie theaters make money is through the concession stand. So I make it a point to buy food there when I go because it's the only margin that they have.
Yeah,
That's like,
honestly, it just doesn't feel right having like watching a film without popcorn. Like I need my popcorn. It just doesn't feel good.
I go in, popcorn, cookie dough bites, Diet Coke, small Diet Coke, and then I'm good to go. And you've played your part in it. It's if you care at all. And people say like, "Oh, what do people even do with these movie theaters? They're just giant. They're just sitting there. As long as they're skeleton crew operational, they'll stay because the people who own those centers, they can't do much else with that space, and it's kind of just residual rent that's probably sticking around for these developers that own these sites. So they'll even leave some ugly Mickey Mouse movie theater up if people are barely going
real
there.
Quick, how much? So I'm guessing a ticket's like what, $12.50 around there. How much is a soda and popcorn?
You know what blew my? I checked. I tried to remember it last time I went because I don't think it's that bad. For popcorn, cookie dough bites, and a Diet Coke, it was $23, which I don't think is that bad. What is it supposed to be? If you took away the cookie dough bites,
how much would that be? Like 18, I guess.
Not even. Not even. Is
honestly,
that the worst thing ever?
If you factor in the price of the tickets and fucking a soda and popcorn, you're looking at like what, $30? Like that's really not even that bad. Like you pay $30 for a nice meal out at a nice restaurant anyway. You're getting pretty much a meal at the cinema with the fucking popcorn and soda, and you get to watch a movie. Like it's not that bad, you know?
No, I mean, I think the same thing. That's why I go and see movies all the time now. But the difference is I always go and see matinees. I can't see them at night anymore for reasons that I'll get into momentarily. But yeah, I think that people have enough entertainment at home and they're not led to go to the theaters. I remember when I saw, actually it was my favorite Harry Potter movie. I happened to go by the theater because a friend was there. I'm not a big Harry Potter guy, but I remember the midnight release for Half-Blood Prince. It was, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Off the wall. People, I saw people I knew that I didn't even know were going to be there because it was a major social event. And that's the way it used to be, going to the theaters. And now it's not like that anymore. People would dress up
in fucking costumes to go to the cinema. Like, who does that now? Like, if I saw someone dressing in the fucking in the Furiosa outfit, I would like I would point out my fucking phone and like laugh at them. You know?
A Furiosa outfit. So they like artificially spread their eyes further apart to look like Amy Taylor-Joy. I don't know
like some fucking fat retard in like a fucking crop top, looking like at the Furiosa movie.
So yeah, it's tough because I actually don't think terrible movies are being made. People say, oh, it's just the next round of slop, enjoy your slop. And I get it. To me, that's what entertainment is. It's just meant to be, I don't know, artificial and pointless and it's just there in front of you. And it's meant to, I understand. You want some directorial masterpiece all the time in the theaters, but that's not what it ever was. And that's not what it is now. They just come out with, in the 80s, it'd just be some random movie that people would go and see that was probably terrible. And it's like, oh, back then they weren't going like, we just want well-written movies. It's like, it's basically the same on par level of quality now that it was then.
You yourself said that the difference between the original Fury Road in 2015 versus the one now, it's like night and day difference, right? So I feel like there is a difference in quality. Like it is noticeably worse.
Yeah, I mean, that was only 9 years ago. And I don't know if it has to do with recent trends, it has to do with outsourcing of CGI, or it has to do with the fact that it's really hard to get people out to the theaters. So when we do make a movie, it has to be worth their time. So they make them 2.5 hours. But yeah, there are some trends that I'm not completely satisfied with the movies that have been coming out lately. But you know, if you combine people getting extremely used to staying inside during COVID, and also people having way too much media at what is it, the palm of their hands or something like that at their feet, then they're not going to go to theaters as much. And when you add in maybe some of the movies that are coming out now aren't really social event movies. The last one ever in my lifetime, I'm predicting, was Endgame. That was the
Yep.
last time everyone communally got together and went to the movies. And this is before, this is a tertiary point, is that if you go and see a movie that is marginally popular after 7 p.m., you are not going to have a good time with the crowd there. You are just not. And it's not racist for me to say this, because this isn't even anecdotal experience. I've been to the movies so many times in my life, seeing a popular movie when it's dark, let's say past dusk, where there is a certain type of person that is openly on their phone talking to it on speakerphone inside the movie theater. It's not anecdotal anymore when I could build an Excel spreadsheet of what kind of person that was on their phone the entire time in the theater, the hundreds of times I've been to the movie theater. Now it's a statistic. Now it's a personal statistic.
That's crazy, because I've never had that happen to me. I've never had.
I think it's an American phenomenon. I think it's an American phenomenon. I can't look past it anymore. And it's so funny. I listened to some Critical Drinker, like a side episode where there's just like a snippet from his podcast. I'm not subscribed, but I get them recommended. And they're like, yeah, and some people are just annoying. Like, you know, just certain people are on their phones. I'm like, just say it. Please just say it. I'll say it if no one else has to, because it's out of hand. At least in this country. You can't, if there is one in the theater, then you're done. That's what ends up happening. They eventually go on their phones, walk outside, walk back in. I just think, why are you here? Are you here to be witnessed by us on your phone? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. So
You know what I want to know? It's sort of like a tangent, but like, I wonder when the studios are gonna fucking take a hint. You know, that what they're doing isn't gonna work. You know, like, surely after like flop after flop, they would sort of understand that, you know, what they're pumping out isn't hitting with people, right?
They don't know what does work. That's the problem. And people say, "Oh, we want well-written, enjoyable movies." Plenty of those have come out and flopped. Sometimes they say, "We just want fun movies with no political message." Those flop too. That's why this conversation's happening, because of things like The Fall Guy. I saw the trailer for Fall Guy and I said, that's pretty good. That looks like a fun movie. Did I go and see it? No.
Yeah,
and
true.
neither did anyone else. And it's kind of the same with Furiosa. Listen, it's not the greatest movie ever, but there was definitely some effort and care put into it. The acting is great. The story's serviceable. And, the way that they depict the desert in those movies is very vibrant, and I like that. But no one went and saw it anyways. I mean, I'd say that movie is comparable to ones in the 90s or 80s that people liked. So, but it bombs
honestly,
anyways.
this might be like the best possible outcome if studios don't take the hint. You know, if they don't take the hint, they die off. This could be like the crash of video games in the 80s. You know, if you remember, like in 1983, the market was just flooded with fucking dog shit, and it crashed 97%. So in 1982, the entire market for video games was like 3 billion. And the following year, the market was like 100 million. It crashed that much.
Really?
And the result of this crash is that it torpedoed nearly the entire industry, but it let new players enter the scene and pioneer like new shit, you know? So maybe like a new crash has to happen to take down the old guard and let new people in. This could mean like,
yeah.
I feel like if that happens, right, we would see a resurgence of mid-budget films. I've heard this before, and maybe you guys have as well. But films these days, they're either like really indie films that cost like $1 million or $2 million to make, or they're $100 to $200 million blockbusters. There's no like $50 million fucking movies anymore. You know, like think about the Truman Show in the '90s. That show cost like 30 to 40 million dollars to make, and because it was like in that price where they could afford quality, but it wouldn't blow the bank out if they failed. They could be fucking creative and they could be innovative with their ideas. I think we need to let a crash happen to go back to those kind of fucking movies again. I would love that.
Not to spoil, but you're reminding me of the fourth Dune book, which is the best one I thought after reading it, is God Emperor Dune, where it's the one where his son becomes a worm himself. If you've ever seen the cover, it's hilarious. But he becomes this not omniscient, but he becomes this a godhead emperor, God Emperor of Dune, where he oversees the entire planet, and not only that, the entire empire for 3,500 years, and he's coined as the tyrant. But his dream for humanity is to create a diaspora where we're stagnant as human beings because we're all interconnected. What he wants to do is kind of create famine and war that'll spread humanity and make them unable to interact with interact with each other as easily, and they'll have to find their own ways through these separate pockets. That's almost like what you're talking about with the movie industry, is that it needs to be completely nuked to the ground. So in that scattering, people could kind of rediscover what it means to make a good movie and be in these productions and kind of help push things forward. So I think we're getting there, really, because it's become unsustainable. And I think streaming changed the complexion of it so much.
Dude, think about the recent film Fall Guy. That film cost like $120 million to make. How many more of those flops can they realistically afford? Like, they're not made of money. Like, there has to be a certain amount of flops before they just die, right? You know?
And I don't understand the typical rebuttals that are, well, they're doing it for tax write-offs. It's like, what are they going to be writing off anymore? what taxes are there to write off? Where's the income? Where's the profit? Where's anything? I don't understand. And maybe they're making a lot of money elsewhere in other IPs or other media avenues that are available to them, and then they can kind of be experimental with movie making. But I thought we were onto something, and I don't know if it's A24 or Blumhouse. I think it was Blumhouse was pumping out movies like Insidious and The Conjuring, where they were low-ish budget horror films that had huge box office reception, and that could have been the prototype. You know, people could have looked at that and observed it and been like, okay, well, how can we do this with more popular IPs? You know, and it wasn't just no one took the hint. You know, so there was nothing to be done with that, and that's kind of upsetting. Yeah,
you see, like the rise of A24. I'm surprised that Universal Studios or fucking Warner Brothers haven't like done their own or attempted to replicate that success at all. Like A24, they do these $20 to $40 million films, and you know, if they're good, they pop off like fucking Everything Everywhere all at once. They get made like 200 million.
Such a stupid.
And then fucking Hereditary that made like 200 million, I think. Dude, why hasn't Warner Brothers like made their own like miniature label where they do sort of like big budget indie films? You know, like that would seem like a good well to
or at least scalp that talent or try their hardest to, and give some more creative freedom and get some true marketing behind it. Because a lot of times when movies like this come out from bigger studios, they don't market them because, well, it's not a superhero movie or it's not a major IP, so why should we put any effort into it? Once you see that you think it's a dumb movie, I enjoyed it. It's not aging as well in my mind as I thought. But when you see something like Oppenheimer do well about some prickly Jewish man who made you feel bad for dropping an atomic bomb on Japan, that movie does insane numbers in theaters. There's something to look at.
Dude,
there.
It
So
made $1 billion. That's
Yeah.
insane, dude.
And even for a Nolan movie, that's impressive. I get that Nolan's a popular director, but you know, sometimes Tarantino will come out with a movie and not everyone will go to theaters and see it. It's sometimes it's not about the director star power, but I think it was more than it being a Nolan film that got everyone to go and see that. It had to do with the way it was presented, the way it was
Oppenheimer,
advertised.
that has to be like one of the biggest biggest like psyops in the fucking history of humanity, dude. Like, just the amount of people that thought it was a good film. It's just, it still boggles my mind to this day that it made $1 billion and people still haven't realized, oh, it's actually a humongous piece of shit. But you know, that's.
I don't want to say it's a fake film. Listen, I saw the movie. I liked it. I thought it drug on a little bit too far. It drug on for too long, and also I didn't find myself caring enough about the predicament he was in towards the end, where the guy's yelling at him, and I'm like, okay, like that's bad, but is it that bad? He's just yelling at you in a drab bureaucratic room. Is this really the most upsetting thing he has going on right now? Oh, by the way, he has a nag wife too. Oh, who's Emily Blunt? Oh, it's terrible. Oh my goodness, I feel so bad for this man, you know. But I think that's a movie where people can feel enlightened as film goers by saying they saw it and are able to dissect it. Be like, oh yeah, I did see Oppenheimer.
Actually,
I did
that's
like
a good
Oppenheimer.
Point. if you watched the previous episode, if you guys watched the previous episode, we talked about like people that chase the aura of intelligence, but they don't actually want to be intelligent themselves. I feel like those are the types of people that would watch Oppenheimer. They just think, oh, that's a movie that smart people would like. I'm gonna just go watch that and say that I like that film.
Exactly. Yeah, that is a trend that we've been noticing here. But I don't really know how to go about fixing it, and I think it's just studios need to find ways to make these movies less expensive. And I also, which, you know, easier said than done, of course, especially since if you want to have an A-list actor, which by the way aren't bringing people in anymore. Even Tom Cruise, which I love Mission Impossible. It's one of my favorite movie franchises. He couldn't get enough people in the theaters to see his movie. I think it's just because it opened up alongside Barbie and Oppenheimer. But even now, I don't think a lot of people go out and see that. So they should start caring less about star power and whoever the new it person is, because it people barely exist. I actually do think we are losing what a movie star is, and the importance of the movie star.
But I'm looking this right now. The Grand Budapest Hotel cost $25 million to make.
And there are a lot of great actors in that, right?
Good. Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, the star one was Ralph Fiennes, but he wasn't really even like he was good, but they could have done the film without
Bill Murray was in it, and Ed Norton. Those are big actors.
But they weren't like keystone actors though in the film. Like they could have swapped them out for other people. If they could build a film for that quality for $25 million, there's no fucking reason Fall Guy needs to cost like $120 million. There's no fucking reason at all.
Well, isn't the whole point of having these overly done outsourced graphic effects is so we can save money? Why are movies not cheaper? Is it at the point where practical effects are cheap? I thought the whole point of special effects was that you could do, you know, incredible spectacles for less money, but it's like more now. So what is that? So, okay. We have people are oversaturated with meat.
Filipino CGI farms, they're charging a lot more these days.
I guess so. Yeah, they realize that the dollar goes a lot further where they are than where we are. I don't know what's going on there, but okay. So you have people oversaturated by media. They claim that it's too expensive to go to the movie theaters, which I don't agree. They don't want to go out and see movies with major stars in them. As I said, the general movie-going experience as an event, aka seeing a movie past 6 p.m., has been completely obliterated by certain demographics within my country. So that makes it difficult. So there's about 4 things going on there. But yeah, one of the main one was I think the industry is just having a hard time finding its identity now that superhero movies are kind of the fad is done. So they're trying. I don't think Marvel's going to be able to reignite and capture that magic again. And Star Wars was supposed to be the successor to that, or at least pick up the torch, and it's just failed miserably, which we'll get into soon, probably in this episode. But I don't know what else there is to be done about this, because movie theaters are still going to be sitting there.
Here's a hypothesis, right? What if superhero films, they started from 2002-ish and have gone until now, right? What if this 20-year stint of superhero films have put the film industry into overdrive, and because of how popular they are, they've inflated the film industry beyond what it's normally supposed to be. Like, maybe it's supposed to crash. Maybe it's not supposed to be as big as it is. Maybe it's just artificially kept up here with
it was
the
overvalued by
exactly.
multiple
Now
500
it
plus
needs to
$1 million
crash.
grossing movies. Yeah,
Exactly.
so it's like maybe movies. Yeah, so it created a tougher
The
margin
bubble.
to meet. Yeah, it is the movie bubble, and it's popping, and that's before you get to the arrogance of studios and their inability to learn from mistakes too. So there are a lot of huge issues with that. That's a good point. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up, and it kind of spurred me wanting to talk about this in general, was I saw an interesting interview on a Twitter clip. It was Matt Damon, and I'm not sure how long ago it was, but he was talking about he wanted to make, or they did make, this movie called Behind the Candelabra. He just said he had a very candid discussion with a producer, and he said, look, it's going to cost me $25 million, and then another $25 million to make it after I'm paying all of you guys, then another $50 million to market it. We're at $100 million for a movie that's, a quirky love story. Not even quirky, sorry, just maybe a semi-serious love story with Matt Damon, and it's like a little bit of an experimental movie. I can't bet on that. Studios can't bet on that. But he said what would happen is that usually they could take bigger bets or they could take more risks because you would have two legs when a movie was released. The first leg was the movie going experience. And in general, more people used to go to the movies. That's just how it was in the 80s, 90s, because there wasn't streaming culture. Now, or then, after the movie was released, give it probably 6 months, it goes to DVD. And that's the second leg of sales for a movie. There is no second leg for movie sales anymore. There is no DVD second leg. So you've removed an entire profit center for a movie, and it's only reliant on ticket sales. You can't, it's a home run derby. You must hit a home run or it does not count.
That's
so
true.
It kind of destroyed the movie industry as a whole. And now we're addicted to streaming because a bunch of lazy fucking loser consumers that don't leave our houses to see movies or buy groceries or get anything other than what we can find on Amazon. It's just pathetic. And then we complain about what we're consuming. Then we say, oh, this isn't good enough. That sits back again. You're not putting in the effort as a consumer for anything that you claim to want. You don't want quality. Don't say that you want quality. You're not willing to leave your house for quality. You have to sit on your couch for it and have it come to you. I'm sorry. Consumers are getting everything they deserve, but I talk about that all the time. But I thought that was an interesting point from Matt Damon because I never thought about it that way. And I understand to rent or buy a movie on YouTube is about $12 to $20, a newer movie. I'm not sure how much of that actually bleeds through to a studio.
They really should.
No one's doing that anyways.
They really should bring back the physical medium. Dude, I think the reason that I love Avatar, the fucking Blue Alien series, so much is because, dude, when it first came out, I spent my hard-earned money buying an Avatar DVD. And because I spent it with my own money and I had to physically go to the shop and buy it, and it cost me something, I would watch it, and whenever I watched it, it would sear itself into my memory because, yeah, it costs something for me to watch it. Versus if at the time I could just watch Avatar on fucking Netflix in 2007 or whenever it came out, I wouldn't care about Avatar as much. So I think, yeah, if we deleted streaming as a whole and went back to the DVD or physical media fucking system, people would love movies more. I would love to buy a fucking DVD,
That's a little bit of nostalgia there. I know some people say that they want it, but if it actually happened, how much would you would you really
Blockbuster? That would be sick.
Something? I guess I love Blockbuster as much as the next guy, but if they did open one, I guess the experience itself just from walking around would be nice. Maybe they should charge a cover to walk around a Blockbuster. There would be some really needy, nostalgic millennials who would do that, me included, by the way. But yeah, it's almost like vinyl with music. There's been a resurgence of vinyl because people realize the texture and quality of the music they're listening to is just a little different, and they kind of like the classic feel of it. There could be something like that for movies, watching them on a certain TV or through a certain medium. And I thought about this recently too because I saw a clip of the menu for a Buffy the Vampire Slayer DVD, and someone was critiquing it, but when I saw it, it was just like a long walk through a graveyard to get. It was like 5 seconds between each menu sequence, and it reminded me of the Star Wars Attack of the Clones DVD that had Easter eggs on it that you could only find through going through a special, like pressing up at a certain spot on the menu and then clicking there, and you'll be able to see a deleted scene of whatever of them trying to create the rebellion and it got cut, which that was dumb. They should have left that scene in the movie, but whatever. But yeah, that was fun cruising around old DVD menus. And who asked for that to be taken away? I didn't ask for that to be taken away. I liked that, but we've so cheapened the
actually that's true. Who fucking assumed that we wanted to do away with physical media? I think, dude, if you ask people in 2009, would you want fucking streaming? I guess they did actually ask for that. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, it's kind of our fault, but
yeah.
maybe we're regretful of that a little bit. I don't know. So, yeah, it's tough, and I think just looking as large a picture on a macro scale as possible, we've just been oversaturated by media. It's cheapened. You don't have to make a commitment to watch something anymore. The commitment used to be getting in your car and going to the movie theater. You do not have to make that commitment anymore. You were either stuck with whatever episode, we'll just say it because you brought up earlier, whatever episode of Friends happened to be on through you catching it on TV Guide at the time, or you go to the movie theater, or you put in a VHS tape or DVD. Those are the only ways we could consume media. I could consume media on my second screen right now while talking to you. People wouldn't even dream of that back then.
There's something nice about cable TV, like showing something at a specific time and that being the only option. It's like
because it gave it more value.
It fosters like a sense of community, because you know that if you're watching it at 7 p.m., if you're watching Friends at 7 p.m., probably so is like all of your other people that you know in real life. It means that you through that show you're connecting to other people. Like, that they're watching the same thing, and when you go to work tomorrow, you can say like, yeah, well, that was a good episode.
Well, that was one of the last shows to capitalize on that was Game of Thrones. That's all anyone talked about. That was the HBO weekly formula too, that they were kind of able to evolve. And now it's just they'll release whole seasons at once. For instance, I was hanging out with a group of people and X-Files came on Comet TV. And we all sat there and watched it with our eyes wide open, paying attention, joking around, having fun. And we would have never thought to turn on X-Files through streaming at that moment. It was because it happened to be on Comet TV at that time. And we all loved it and watched it. There's something different about it, but it's like we're being held hostage by streaming culture while also being nostalgic and wanting for how it used to be. But I think something's changed in our brains collectively, where just as a whole, as a consumer society, where we're just locked into streaming and media, and there's no change. We want it to be the way it used to be, where we could value media, but we'll never be able to get back there. It's essentially the genie's already out of the bottle or whatever. Pandora's box has already been opened. There's no way to put it back in. So, which is a shame. But I don't know what has to change for it to happen. And I think it's what you're saying. I think what if there were no movies at movie theaters?
Crash playing with no survivors, dude.
Exactly. It'll be very painful for the movie industry, but that's just how it goes.
But they're a big industry, so
for many, absolutely. I can't believe, wow, that joke is like 11 or 12 years old in the just awful internet.
It truly was.
I think normal people know what that is now.
It truly was one of the first jokes that just wasn't funny at first, but it was just repeated so many times that it just became funny just by itself.
I'm pulling off the mask for a second here, but I did laugh when they called the Mosquito Man, and then did a comic of the Mosquito Man and like his adventures with being like, I understand that was maybe jumping the shark a little bit on the whole joke, but just the thought of him being Mosquito Man was really funny to me. So, all right, just another quick, because we spent a little bit on that one, which we should have. I think it's an interesting topic, and I think a lot of people are kind of wondering the same things, and I'm interested to see what other people think about it, because I'm getting really sick of just write better movies and we'll go see them. That's not true, because then you start complaining about how expensive it is. You always find something to complain about for not going to theaters. So it's not about the quality of movies, which again, arguably aren't as good as what they used to be, but they're not horrible. They're not. Furiosa is not an unwatchable pile of garbage movie. It's worth going to the theaters to see.
I'm fatigued over that type of film. Let's just put it at that.
I understand that, yeah, and maybe movie studios will learn from that, and it's kind of leading into something I wanted to talk about real quick because I keep promising it, and we will do it. We'll just do a Star Wars blowout episode, but there's a new show coming out on Disney Plus called The Acolyte, which is the latest entry into Star Wars, and they've done a press tour for it. And I'm gonna say, she who shall not be named, because I think it's kind of a cop out, especially for a lot of YouTube channels, is Kathleen Kennedy. Was also part of this press tour, and she did the classic, which I'm starting to think is a marketing tactic. Said, we don't want any bigots, homophobes, or racists watching our show, or it was something like, I think women in Leslie Headland, the creator of it, said that, and then Kathleen Kennedy followed up with, it's really hard for women to star in Star Wars projects now because there's a lot of misogynist fans out there, this is a really boring point. It's not worth talking about. And the rebuttal is always, which I'm so sick of, by the way, is it's not that. It's just that we want well-written movies. We love Jane Erso and Ahsoka Tano and Bastille. It's just, okay, we get it. We get that you're
Also,
well-to-do guys that love women.
That's not true. We are misogynists. We want to see less women in films.
So
let's just come clean with it, you know?
So you're onto something, and I'm not sure if you know that you're onto something or not. So instead of which hasn't been working for the last 10 years, by the way, saying things like, we just want good writing, and we actually do love female characters, because they don't care that you're saying that. So you might as well just say that you do. Just say that you do and don't see it. How's that sound? And it would be amazing, because usually I used to get worked up when I would see comments like that. I'd be like, what? I've read all the books. I've seen all the movies at least 10 to 20 times. I'm super into Star Wars. I followed them down the I've went down the Disney Star Wars rabbit hole to a point where I could not return. I watch all the stupid shit. I'll watch Bad Batch. I watched Ahsoka. I watched everything. Mando season 3 was one of the most, oh my God, terribly written, just misshapen. It was like a Frankenstein of a season. You could tell it was hobbled together. Just really, really embarrassing stuff. And I gave up after Obi-Wan. After I watched Obi-Wan, that was my last chance. They blew it. That was one of the most embarrassing pieces of franchise destroying media I've ever seen.
I don't know. I kind of like the finale though for Obi-Wan.
Well, it's because you got filtered like immediately. That's what everyone says when I talk about that. Yeah, but it showed like half of Anakin's. They already fucking did that better in Rebels. They already did that better in Rebels. I will only say though,
I haven't watched anything else. I just saw the finale on YouTube. That was it.
Okay, well that's. That is an acceptable way of watching something you don't want to watch. By the way, we talk about oversaturation of media. YouTube, sure. I might as well have watched all of Young Sheldon at this point with the way YouTube is serving it up to me. But hey, that got me to watch all of Suits. I used to get recommended Suits YouTube shorts, and I just watched the entire show, which that show went on for far too long. But I can see why, because I'm sure it was popular when it was on TV. But
it's like, Mike, the firm is about to goddamn die. We have to do something. It's like every single day.
Let's just say Harvey's actor is lucky that certain YouTube short film edits weren't around when he was making that show, because the amount of Harvey Specter edits there would be, it'd be like, yeah, Michael, that's what I said, and then like the music comes in, and you know what I mean, like like the like,
you don't think I know that drives away in fucking like classic car.
Yeah, and then it like cuts to Ryan Gosling or something. Yeah, just like stupid stuff like that. But yeah, where was I going with the so I think and I hate to use the typical vote with your wallet, something like that. Yeah, which is what people like to say is kind of, but just don't engage with this anymore. Whenever I see and by the way, like I said, I think that they say things like, I think Disney's realized it's useful for discussion of their shows for people to come out and say inflammatory, accusatory things like, people who don't like the show are misogynists. So then everyone throws their arms and go, we're not misogynists. And now all of a sudden, this is the conversation. We're probably talking about the Acolyte. I wouldn't be bringing it up right now if there weren't a discussion ever.
It's sort of like a good indirect marketing tactic. Like you say something inflammatory, Critical Drinker makes a video about it, and then because Critical Drinker makes a video about it, because he's against it, I have to be pro this now, and I'm going to watch it. So
the turf war is the goal, maybe. And I'm not original in this thought. Someone much smarter. I got it from someone much smarter than me that I listen to regularly. And they seem to be convinced of it. I'm not. I don't think Disney is that smart. I don't think they're that intelligent to be able to pull that off from marketing based on the failures that they've been racking up over the last. I mean, people don't even. We just got to do a Disney mega episode in general because I love talking about Disney. Previous shareholder, I used to follow them very closely, but they can't even make good Pixar movies for people to go out and see anymore. They can't even make good princess movies for people to go out to see anymore. That used to be their staple. That used to be what they're all about. They're so lucky they made Frozen, 15 years ago or whenever that came out. If they didn't make Frozen, they'd be dead in the water. That entire IP is hard.
Frozen was actually a banger. I loved it.
Yeah, I've only watched it passively, but I mean,
it actually was funny how much Jordan Peterson hated Frozen. Like, I never searched this up, but like, he's like, one of the most demonic films Disney's ever made is Frozen. They've inverted the archetype. It's like, patient. Like,
where the princess is the hero.
Yeah.
I guess that was kind of the beginnings of that. And again, as I've said many times, even on this show, I think there was a huge generational marketing think tank that recommended to Disney, men will go and see your movies anyways. So, especially when it comes to Star Wars or Marvel. So here's another 50% of the world, of the United States, wherever, of women that you need to capture because you already have the men. And they bought into that. They've bought into that over the last 10 to 20 years, and eventually it might be too late before they find out it's not the greatest marketing tactic because it's not working, because that's not how gender relations work. Women are in relationships with men, and
yeah, that's not how the human brain works, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not just women over here and men are over here and they're completely separate and only one will go and see something and the other one sits over there, and then you do some simple trick.
I can see why if you buy into like the whole intersectionality thing, you would think that, oh, they're just the same, so why not market to women? You know, it's like, no, like it just isn't true. Like, Warhammer was a strictly guy thing for a reason, and Barbie was a strictly girl thing for lots of decades for a reason. You know, like, there are things that just tilt towards a certain gender.
Certainly their metrics will show at some point that they are that locked in male audience is losable. Surely they'll have some metrics that'll show that, at least through Star Wars. That'll be
not only is it losable, it's lost. Like, it's gone. I don't care about Star Wars anymore. I literally don't.
So that was kind of you kind of wrapped it around to my full point was, they have gotten me, a mega Star Wars fan, raised on Star Wars. My favorite game of all time is Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. I remember when the movies were re-released in theaters, my dad took me to see them, and I remember where I was and what I thought the first time Vader said, "Luke, I am your father." It was life-changing. I loved episode 3. Episode 3 is my favorite one. I love everything about Star Wars. Read the books, everything. Disney has managed to make me not care about the franchise at all anymore. I do not care about I'm not going to watch The Acolyte. I'm not going to see the new Rey movie. I'm not going to do anything. Maybe 10 years from now, if they put it in a time capsule and bring it back up and realize that they made tons of mistakes with it, I might go and see it. But they have lost me. And if they're losing people like me, huge, not only a Star Wars fan, but a very forgiving one. I stayed on board for a long time after most people I know tuned out. If they're losing people like me, they're losing everyone before me, and that's bad. That means they're losing casual fans. And now they have some weird turf war audience now that's only into it as a counter argument to people who are no longer into it. And I'm sorry, those people don't spend money, and that's not going to be enough to carry it forward. So,
I was in university a few years ago, and I went on this field trip. Well, not this club field trip for hiking. And as we were driving to this location, this redhead girl was next to me, and I was like talking to her about what movie she likes to watch. And she's like, no, she was busted, but but she told me, "Oh, I like watching anything with diversity." And I'm like, "What?"
What?
And I'm like, and I prodded her on that, and she's like, "Yeah, diversity is like my number one criteria for like whether I watch a film or not." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
So do you think most people are like that?
No,
or do you think she's the exception? Because that is crazy, by the way.
I think they're like a loud minority, and I just want to pose a question to Disney: like, how much money do you think you're going to make off her? realistically, versus like a self-proclaimed mega fan like we have here. Why do we compare the fucking wallet difference here, huh?
Well, the other part is that Star Wars used to flourish from toy sales. No one's going out buying. No one's going out buying Finn toys and whatever Oscar Isaac's characters.
Ray action figure.
Care. Yeah, like what is that all about? So that culturally is kind of over, dude. When Star Wars Episode 1 came out, you go into Zany Brainy and you would load up on these Star Wars toys and then walk on out a happy customer. It's not like that. It's just not like that anymore, especially since the movies couldn't recapture that. Oh, like who are the kids say, like, Mom, I want my Lay BB-8, action. What are you talking about? No one's doing that. And you know what? I recommend everyone watch this. I don't think we're on the same plane ideologically. In fact, probably the opposite. But this YouTuber, Jenny Nicholson, made a autopsy of the Star Wars Galactic Cruiser, which was
I watched
hotel.
it actually.
You watched that? Yeah, I thought it was phenomenal. But I also think it's kind of emblematic of the issues Disney has with handling the Star Wars brand in general. They don't understand how it works. They don't understand how they've affected it, and they don't know where to go from now. And it's a shame. It really is a shame to see. But I guess getting back to my central point is when they come out and say, so it's a Mott and Bailey, kind of offense where they say, you're a bigot, you're a racist, you're a misogynist if you don't like the show. And you say, if you don't like the show, then that means you're all those things. And you find that offensive. So you have to say something about that. Like, no, it's not that. So just you rushing to your own defense, they've already got you in their hooks. Instead, just say, yes, I am all of those things, and I won't be watching Star Wars. Yeah. And it's not, it might not even be true. I'm not a misogynist. I kind of wish I were sometimes, but I'm not. But I might as well just say, you know what? Yeah, dude. I like female leads. I think women are hot, and I like. First off, they try their hardest to not make them look hot, which is really annoying. I thought that was really funny on the guy. I already forget the name of it. What was the Madam Web came out, and they made girls that
makes me so angry. It's like all these people, all these Asian Americans, they talk about fucking like representation in media, and then Disney chooses like a fucking busted ass looking Asian woman for Rose in The Last Jedi. They couldn't have chosen anyone more attractive. Like, really, dude? Oh my God.
I'm not with you on that one because I thought that was an interesting character to introduce in the Star Wars universe. And
she's busted.
I know I've turned into a weird Last Jedi defender over the years just because I think it's the only movie that's left an impression out of anything Disney's ever done.
The only reason you're saying that is because he sabotaged to make the impression that you love so much. He sabotaged the final film to get that impression.
Good. I'm glad he did. I'm even glad he did that.
He left nothing for his successor, which is like, well, that's not ideal if you want to make a trilogy.
That's not true because Trevosa's third movie had a script that was able to work in line with what Rian Johnson did, and Disney said, forget it. We'll just make J.J. Abrams to make the worst Star Wars movie ever made, which did happen. But whatever. I'll let the Rose thing go because that's an episode unto itself. But I forget why we were talking about that originally, about The Last Jedi, but it's just in general, what I was saying was in Madam Web, for instance, you had 4 of the hottest girls in Hollywood right now, or whatever, purportedly hot. At least one of them is, agreed upon, collectively hot. You have Sydney Sweeney, you have Isabel Merced, who I think is extremely hot. You got Dakota Johnson, who's, she's great too. And then there was one other girl in there, I forget, because it's a very forgettable movie. They did not show any skin throughout the entire movie. Nothing good. You have some of the hottest girls in Hollywood in the movie. You choose to not make them attractive, which would be the one draw for the movie, which is strange. I don't know why we have to have this like repressed neo-Puritan angle with showing women now, because it doesn't come from a religious place. It comes from a progressive place, which makes no sense to me because they also want to be sex positive at the same time. So it's just a labyrinth of ideology that makes no sense. But then they go on the press tour from the movie. They dress like the hottest skanks you've ever seen in your life. Dakota Johnson has a see-through dress. Sydney Sweeney's showing her fat honkers. I'm like, where was this when the movie was getting made? That was the whole reason I went out and saw it. But whatever. whatever. It just blows my mind. It's like, okay, if you're gonna make female leads, make them hot. You'd be getting me out there. And if everyone's a sex positive lesbian now, we need to be respectful. Lesbians want to see that too. They want to see a hot woman on the screen.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say the movie could have earned way more male attention and male ticket sales if they just didn't have the word madam in the film. Like after I saw the film and I saw these actors, I'm like, oh, okay. But then I saw the title, Madam Web. I'm like, I'm not trying to see a film with the word madam in it. Like,
sounds a little frail and dated. Oh, Madam Web, and that's what her character is in the comics. She's an old lady. So yeah, and dude, that movie's so ridiculous. I'm so glad it got made.
If the movie was like about a heist, and then they call it like Madam Heist, I'm not seeing that. But if they just called it The Heist, I would fucking watch that, you know?
Well, that's like how I always say that Carrie Lake, I forget. I think she ran for Congress originally or senator in Arizona. I always say, first off, she's awful. I think she was literally created to just destruct any political movement that she's involved with. But if she has short hair, I'm like, if she just grew her hair out, she'd probably get 10,000 more votes from guys. But she wouldn't do that. Instead, she wants to have some ugly butch cut. Why would you ever do that?
Same with Katy Perry. All she needs to do to get a fucking platinum album again is just grow her hair out and not look fucking busted.
Yeah, hey, you heard it here first, folks. So I'll let that one go because I'll take it easy on the subject because we just need to have a Star Wars mega episode. People don't seem to care when we talk about one movie for a whole episode of doing movie review, but I like doing those, so we'll probably do that again, but just with the entire Star Wars franchise in general. But I'll move on from that. We're on the back end here, so we'll just kick around some subjects a little bit. And this one I'm interested in is because Tyson is Asian, and he said a topic he wanted to discuss was Asians. So what do you want to say about Asians?
So there's this fucking Twitter post that I came across like a few hours ago, actually. And it's probably like the most fucking disingenuous Twitter post I've seen in a long ass fucking time. So it's this post where it gave all these like statistics about like what Asians find meaningful in life. Like, do they find work meaningful, or their relationships, or their family? And dude, according to the data, which, you know, I
already sounding Asian.
It leaves a lot to be desired. They're implying that East Asians have nothing to live for except their material possessions. They have this chart where it shows that Asians find less meaning in everything except material wealth, which even according to their data, it's on par with people in the Western Hemisphere. And apparently that's why, you know, the Chi-Coms are the greatest threat to Western civilization. The post was made by this fucking like retarded neocon, by the way. And it's like,
nice.
You know, putting aside from the fact that their data collection method is retarded, and, you know, the word meaning itself can mean different things across different cultures. They're trying to promote this idea that a family is number one in Asian culture. Like, I'm sorry, that's retarded, and that's just plain wrong. You know, if anything, we as a culture place probably too much emphasis on family. You know, you want to talk about material wealth. It's like, yeah, no, should we as a culture pursue that? But the key question is, why do we pursue that? You know, the main reason Asian families place so much emphasis on work, on their kids getting good grades and getting a good job, is because we see building generational wealth as the best way to ensure our descendants are happy and live good lives. You know, as a culture, can we do more work in the religion and spirituality department? Like, sure, but to say like family isn't the center of Asian culture is just being bad faith at that point, you know?
Yeah, I don't think
it's funny.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's funny, like seeing these lame new age internet neocons like spend days on end critiquing China and Russia, but then they run like fucking rats when someone does the same for Israel or the intelligence agencies, and they seem to get all their fucking talking points from. You know, another thing that they brought up, right, is like,
you're doing well until that, but keep going.
No, it's fine. Another thing that they like to bring up is like the birth rate in Asia. You know, they claim that East Asian birth rate is so low because of how soulless their society is. It's like, I wonder if these dumbasses realize that industrialization has been observed to cause a decrease in birth rates across every single continent. including Africa. But somehow Asians are like unique in this statistic. I hate to break it to this fucking dumbass, but the West isn't doing too well in the fucking birth rate department either. You know, in the entire Western Hemisphere, the only countries that are above replacement level are Guatemala, Honduras, and fucking Bolivia. Not exactly the pillars of Western civilization.
That's before you get to Japan.
Yeah, and you know, even if you compare America itself to China, the average birth rate of non-black and non-Hispanic white women in America is around 1.6, which compared to China's 1.3, it's like, okay. Do you realize like sub-Saharan Africa has a birth rate of 4.6 and North Africa has a birth rate of 3.1? These neocons are trying to gloat over this shitty 0.3 difference when really we're both in the same fucking boat. You know, you might want to start looking at how we can help each other solve the birth rate problem, because if things keep going the way they are, both of us are going to get replaced by Africans in 100 years. You know, it's like they're just missing the point entirely.
Well, I think you have enough of a personal perspective on the family part, so I won't comment on that. But two things, and one of them being a scapegoat, and that's more on the birth rate question. The first one is that I have privileged industry related knowledge that I think that, or at least has been revealed, that it's not that Asians are massive consumers more so than the West. They have a different way of presenting themselves through status and through consumerism, in that they like labels on what they wear. So a certain brand that will flourish in America because, I don't know, the clothes look a certain way, they fit a certain way, they're more casual, wouldn't do as well in East Asian countries because they don't have a label on them. They want to have the Lacoste symbol. They want to have the Tommy Hilfiger, because they use that as a status symbol, kind of in the same way. Look, people do that in the West as well, but not as much. Over there, it's kind of a requirement for what you wear and how they dress, and that's just how they view fashion, and they care about it in a different way than they do. I won't say that they're more consumerist than us. I mean, it's America's chief cultural import and export is our service-based consumerism. So yeah, they just have a different way of presenting wealth and wearing wealth and being interested in it, and that's okay. That's just a cultural distinction. But the reason why they talk about birth rates in China the way they do is because they can blame it on the one child policy and use that as a scapegoat and say, now they're over leveraged in male presence in the country, and now they're like, oh wait, you also need women to procreate, so what are we gonna do about that? And I had a conversation with someone last night about this, coincidentally. He was saying that women are now auctioned off in China, etc. I didn't feel like looking into it, but I do remember the one child policy. I don't think it was spread throughout the whole country, though. I remember it was just kind of district wide, but I could be wrong. But again, they just use that as the scapegoat. I'm not sure if that's true or not, or it's the reason for their birthing crisis, but it doesn't matter because we're having a birthing crisis nationally, or sorry, internationally, worldwide, except for
it's a global phenomenon.
countries where you don't want them reproducing, by the way. Whatever. So okay, that's
I mean,
and
it's like
they are family focused, by the way. When the Asian mom says, "What, you marry engineer?" It's not because she wants to be rich or she wants her daughter to be rich. She wants her daughter to be secure in her life going forwards and not have to worry about being destitute.
I guess like the difference in culture is like Asian women, they expect men to show the goods up front before they engage in like a long-term relationship. Like the reason that, so for in China, if you want to get married, you cannot get married unless you own a house. That's just number one thing. And people say like, okay, well, that's just them being gold diggers. It's like, no, not really. They just want to know that the guy that they're going to marry can provide for the future kids that they're going to have. You know, like I don't think that's a tough requirement. But I want to go on to
I wonder
something
if that
else.
helps or hurt with supply of housing if that happens.
Sorry, it helps. Another thing that I don't understand. Right? Another thing that I never understood, right, is like, but these dumbasses on YouTube and these neocons, they'll say, "Oh, China has these like ghost cities and all that stuff," and it's like, so you're telling me China has a surplus of housing that they can give to their citizens for the cheap, and that's bad somehow? Okay.
Because it just is, okay?
But I want to get to a larger point, right? It's like, as an Asian person, I was born in the West. I care about the West. You know, I also care about Asia because it's part of who I am. I'm of the opinion that, you know, the American unipolar world, where it received its world police status after World War II, it was a unique point in time, and it doesn't last forever. And the natural state of the world is to have multiple poles of of influence. You know, if you go back a thousand years, China was a great pole, Roman society was a great pole. You know, it's not natural for there to be like one unipolar world order. And it's like, I don't mean harm for America when I wish for Asians to do well in their society. It's like, I sort of wish, like, as someone from both sides, I would wish upon
Both
both.
sides.
I would wish upon us like a friendly rivalry. Like, why can't we just have that? You know, like, I would
That's
like
almost
that.
what we have now, and that's kind of what Trump did during the trade wars with China
Yeah,
too. The tariffs. Okay,
I would
that's
like
fair.
that. As like, but then you just go into like all these people like, no, we have to go to war. It's like, why? Like, for what? Like, I feel like there's more pressing issues in the world than fucking going to war with China. You know?
Look at us. Also, I think people are starting to see through that facade as China is the ultimate evil. I mean, you guys are ridiculous with our intellectual property and sending people here for college and then taking back what you've learned. I mean, you're a little more resourceful than we are in that sense. But yeah, I mean, we could just look at you guys as adept trade partners instead of extreme adversaries that we need to eventually go to war with, just because you're becoming a powerful country. Because I don't think China would ever willingly want to go to war with us. I mean, that's the
No,
moniker,
yeah,
the sleeping dragon of a country that you don't want to wake up. I remember reading that somewhere before. I thought that was an interesting tokenization. But I don't know how much longer the American hegemony is going to last. And I want it to last because I'm an American and I love that. And I'll
that's fair.
lean into obnoxious American exceptionalism as long as I can. But if we're spreading ourselves so thin to the point where it's becoming harmful for our own country and what's going on internally, which honestly is starting to be the case, then yeah, I really would want us to ease up, focus more on what's going on our own land, and just engage in trade disputes with you guys instead of just strange war games around what's that stupid little country called that may or may not exist?
Yeah, like
Taiwan, things like that. So, you were like, you thought I wasn't going to say it. I just couldn't remember for a second.
like, we should just drop this proxy war bullshit. I don't. It just doesn't seem like there's any fucking real benefit in it. You know?
What if we played this for both world leaders of our country and say, here's a guy pretending to be Chinese and a guy whose family only immigrated to America in the last like 150 years, saying that you guys should stop, and they'll be like, oh, okay. You're right.
Oh,
So,
wait, just like that? Okay, sweet.
yeah, exactly. So, all right, that's good.
But
So,
yeah, neocons still stay losing. But yeah, that's all I had to say about that.
I think the day of the neocon will rise again. People are sick of populism has lost luster. Libertarianism was never in the public stage in the first place, and people are nostalgic for the Bush years. And
Nope.
there will be
No,
a
they're not.
resurgence of neocon. Okay, well, we shall see. But I think I'm just a little ahead of the curve, a little bit. But
Okay.
with that being said, Tyson, we're gonna tune out here, but I'm going to summon his name. I'm going to say it. We do have to talk about Trump and the conviction soon. We need to get back on our political grind. It's getting close to the election, really.
Yeah, we should do a fucking election episode. That'd be fun.
We'll do an election episode and start making some calls because I get it's a little far away, but I think all the boards are on the pieces are on the board in a sense. So we'll move them ourselves and see where the world actually moves them for us in the coming months. But yeah, just a meeting of the minds on that one. So, all right, folks, this has been a good contrarian hour. So until next time, have a good one.